Forensic accounting and fraud examination is an interesting field, and it's one that I frequently see students express an interest in. So I thought that I would take a few minutes to go over just some basics of the field of forensics and fraud. All right, all right, first let's look at some key elements of forensic accounting, okay? As you might imagine, with most jobs, your responsibilities could vary pretty substantially depending on where you work and exactly what you're tasked to do. But some of the more common responsibilities that we might see forensic accountants assume include using accounting, auditing, and investigative skills to conduct examinations into finances of individuals or businesses, providing a financial analysis to be used in a legal proceeding, looking beyond the numbers and assessing the business reality of a situation, and then, of course, participating in fraud and embezzlement cases to explain the nature of the financial crime in court. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. All right, so some of the more common employers of forensic accountants. Again, this can vary pretty widely, but these are some of the most common employers. We've got insurance companies, financial institutions, law enforcement, government agencies, public accounting firms, and I'll even add legal firms to that list as well. All right, now your responsibilities can vary substantially depending on where you work. So here is a list of some things that you might be tasked to do as a forensic accountant if you were working inside an accounting firm. Some of your responsibilities might include collecting evidence, conducting electronic forensics, holding interviews, translating technical jargon into common language, and this one actually ties very nicely into the last one, which is testifying as a professional witness in court. This is also called an expert witness. Throughout this, we're going to talk about the potential of serving in legal proceedings. So if you're a forensic accountant, you have two basic options of how you could potentially serve and function during a legal proceeding or court case, okay? One option is to serve as a consultant for one party or the other, okay? So that means you're either working for, the prosecution or the defendant. You're working with them in a consulting capacity, which means that you can advise them and even help to make strategic decisions. So that's one capacity. That's the consultant capacity. If you're working in the consultant capacity, the other party in the legal proceeding is not going to have access to you. The other capacity that you can work in is what we call an expert witness. If you are working as an expert witness, you will actually testify in court, and your primary responsibility is to explain what happened in a way that the judge and the jury of 12 individuals can understand it. As you might imagine, in most fraud cases, the conduct of the offending party is normally pretty complex. And oftentimes, the folks that are on the jury may not really have any background in accounting or finance. And so explaining to them what happened in accounting and finance terms may not mean a whole lot. It may be a little bit difficult for them to get their heads around what happened. And so that's where the expert witness really comes into play in explaining what happened in layman's terms so that the judge or jury can understand and make an appropriate decision in the case. Now, if you are serving as an expert witness, the other party will have access to you. They will cross-examine you on the stand, and you will have to be prepared to answer their questions. And in many cases, because you're serving as an expert witness for the other party, they may question your conclusions and that sort of thing. So you kind of have to be prepared for that. All right, you could also work in corporate security or risk management. If you're working in this type of role, you're probably going to focus on auditing, regulatory compliance, protecting financial assets from internal and external threats, and also just looking at general business risk to the organization. All right. Again, you could also work in law firms or consulting firms. And again, most of the time you would be looking at, probably investigating issues, trying to determine what happened, and then either helping those legal experts to understand what happened, or possibly serving as an expert witness in court. Governmental departments. This one is pretty broad. There are lots of forensic accounting folks employed in government, federal level, state level, even some local levels may have some forensic accounting folks. But here are some responsibilities that a person might face if they were working for, say, the FBI, CIA, IRS, along those lines. Now, what does everyone want to know? Money. All right, so let's talk just a little bit about money. Now, where I got these figures, Robert Half publishes a salary guide every year. These figures came from the 2020 Robert Half salary guide. According to their findings, and these are nationwide averages, according to their findings, forensic accountants normally earn between $78,000 and $149,000 annually nationwide. The 78,000 figure represents the lowest 25th percentile, and the 149,000 represents the top 5%. The average in 2020 nationwide was about $95,000. Now, in terms of how that nationwide average might compare to where you are, generally speaking, it's probably going to be a fair estimate, but if you live somewhere where there's a very high cost of living, you can probably bump the number up a little bit because those areas generally pay salaries that are a little bit higher. Likewise, if you live in an area where the cost of living is lower, the salary is probably going to be just a little bit less. Okay, some considerations in terms of what they are looking for. This is going to vary substantially from organization to organization, depending on exactly what sort of task and responsibilities they're going to ask you to assume. But generally, they are going to be looking for some combination of education, experience, and then possibly certification or professional designation. In terms of experience, certainly, would probably not be required, but one of the most advantageous types of experience you could have would probably be in the internal auditing or external auditing field. And then many organizations will also look for some sort of professional designation, such as the certified public accountant, certified fraud examiner, or the certified in financial forensics. And as I noted here, the certified in financial forensics, you have to get your CPA first before you can get that one. The certified fraud examiner, you do not necessarily have to get the CPA first. So anyway, I hope that this short presentation gives you a little bit of information about the field of forensic accounting and fraud examination.